This episode is brought to you by our chic, luxurious, elegant, and wonderful, delightful even, patrons.
For as little as $1 a month or $1 billion a month if you want, you can get access to show notes, early access first plays, unedited episodes, and the famous Patreon pools.
If that sounds like a good deal to you, and it should, check us out at patreon.com/NGP podcast. And at whatever level you're comfortable, you can lend your wallet and support to us making retro gaming content for you.
Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
Nolan here.
And this is episode 384, and it is a Patreon poll! And it is the second pool of the summer pool party, where we are randomizing from a much smaller pool of games every other week this summer. This is your perfect opportunity to have your game selected. You can join us over at, what is it, Kenny?
Patreon.com/NGP podcast.
There we go.
Since you wanted to force it.
We'll get them. I mean, do you want people to go there or not? Because
I do.
Okay.
I would like people to support our show and continue listening to what we do.
Sure.
Speaking of Patreon.com, the question of the week this week is, who has the better haul? So, many of you have already watched and partooketh in our retro haul competition.
It's Portook.
Nolan, what is our retro haul competition all about?
Well, the three of us went to a video game store and then we went to another one, and we each had $100 to spend to just grab the best haul, and then we went back and shared our hauls, and now everybody can vote on who won that competition, and voting in that also enters you to win the haul that you voted for. So if you think one of us had a good one, then you get it. But you need to watch the video.
Yeah, there's an entire video that is a setup, is us at the retro store and then us sharing, revealing our hauls. I had planned to quickly list our collections here. Is that spoiler?
Would take too long.
Is it spoiler?
Not if you do it
Spoiler.
fast.
It's
No, spoiler.
Okay.
It's not a spoiler because it's in the post, but also
No,
it might
but go
deter
check out the
people.
video and then vote.
Yeah.
All of those links are in the show notes, but I just need you to know right now that it's only for the next 2 days when this episode releases that you are able to vote, because it's been going for nearly a week now. Over 100 of you have already voted, and largely incorrectly, because currently Kenny's haul is at the top at 45%.
I worry it's not gonna change. We're pretty far behind, Dustin.
I know.
I think I'm in last.
I know. But no, you're not in last. I am, which is fine.
We're both in
it's
last.
No, it's not. The problem is, I'm just baffled by how many people love Sharpies. I just didn't know Sharpies were such a big thing.
And ugly covers. I never liked them myself.
I will let my haul speak for itself.
Please don't say I give the people what they want. He's been telling us that this
saying
week.
that. I don't know if he knows what that means.
He doesn't know what it means. It doesn't mean...
The most
every time
popular, highest selling, billions of copies in existence games with no cover.
He picked a game that came out last year that has
discs.
no cover. That
I give the people what they want.
Oh, great. Listen, I didn't want to come across as heartless, but Kenny, your haul is just goofy. Oh, look!
That's the worst goofy you could have done.
Oh, that was supposed to be goofy?
Like in our retro game of the week, Kingdom Hearts.
I thought he was going for Donald.
Overview.
Kingdom Hearts is an action role-playing video game in 2002 by Square Enix.
Ooh, all of that sounds just like Final Fantasy 16.
Well, it gets better. For the PS2.
Kind of.
for the PS2.
Okay.
And it was a massive deal when it came out because not only was it Square Enix that published the game, but this was a collaboration between Square Enix and Walt Disney, like Disney.
The big D.
The big D. And this was before they had purchased everything in the world, but they still owned a lot and were huge. And even I, as a kid, was like, what? I was confused and was like, what's happening? What's happening?
It's hard to believe, knowing Disney now, that they allowed this, that they did this, that they were down for this. My understanding, and I don't know how much legitimacy there is to this, but that at least a portion of Disney and a portion of Square at the time were operating out of the same facilities, the same building. And
the castle?
No, not the
Epcot
castle.
Center.
And an elevator conversation between one Disney person and one Square person led to the formation of this. One of them was like,
I like the myth of that.
Yeah, obviously then there was many more conversations, but to allow for Disney to allow their products so freely like this, it blows me away today. But it was, I guess they just got him at such a perfect time back into the early 2000s.
It had to be a real sweet spot.
Yeah.
And it was a real sweet spot when it worked. If you tried to do that today with all of the things Disney owns and the fact that they tried to shove literally everything they own into this game, which is not a complaint, but actually kind of a compliment, you'd have Cloud fighting a Jedi.
Well,
they would do
that does happen later in the series, kind of. But this was like the pre-Marvel Disney. And I don't know if I see current Disney making such a bold collaboration.
Absolutely not.
Because they don't have to and probably wouldn't want to. It's still baffling. It happened though, and we got Kingdom Hearts, and it's not just one game. It's a whole series, and it's very, very loved by fans, as we'll probably come to hear in commentary. But it is a hack and slash action game. Role-playing elements as well, but you play as Sora, who is on the Square Enix side of things. New character, though, not from a previous game. A preteen boy looking for his friends and trying to fight evil and the heartless alongside Donald Duck and Goofy. That's your party.
Which sounds ridiculous.
It's on paper, it doesn't work.
It is kind of ridiculous.
On paper, this needs to be burned, but they went ahead with it and made it, and we'll find out if it does or not.
Well, and they produced the 10th best-selling PS2 game of all time.
Whoa, I didn't have that.
The 10th.
Top 10, baby. That's something to comment about for sure.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
PS2 had a crazy catalog. I didn't know it was top
PS2
10.
was huge.
I guess I'm not surprised by that figure. I honestly would have guessed top 5.
So,
but the second one maybe
it'll just be interesting for us that Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is number 1, selling the most. But you've also got Vice City as number 4. You've got 2 Gran Turismos for 2 and 3. 5 and 9 are both Final Fantasies, 10 and 12 respectively. Respectively. You've got Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty at 7, Tekken 5 at 8, and then at 10 you've got Kingdom Hearts.
PS2 was so sick.
PS2 was my era. And
was sick.
Even though it was my era, I didn't play this game growing up.
Right.
I played this game for the first time 5 years ago, 6 years ago or so.
Longer.
Well, it was while I was here. So it was while I was here. Someone I became friends with really wanted me to play the game because knew that I did a podcast, but knew that I hadn't played Kingdom Hearts yet. And so they lent me their PlayStation, which I still have and never gave back, along with Kingdom Hearts. And so I played it back then. So I had experience with it. Nolan, you for sure had experience.
I did. I really loved the series in 2002 and 3. Ooh. And through Kingdom Hearts 2 and a couple of the games that came after, yes. And Kenny, for sure, this was a kid's game for you when you were 30.
What?
No, I didn't play this. You forget that I'm old. I was a little
my
bit
joke.
past. I was a little bit past the window. Like, I feel like, Dustin, it surprises me you didn't play it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you were prime.
Yeah.
Like, age range for this game blowing up. But when it came out, I was kind of like, is it a kid's game? And I probably would have loved it. I love Disney. I love the Square stuff.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I was kind of like, I don't think they made this for me. And so I passed. And so this was my first time ever playing this game this week.
Dude, honestly, it just dawned on me, and this is a deeper conversation when we get to aged, but this was probably Disney's like easy ride into gaming. Partner with Square, one of the biggest and most loved developers. Like, we want to do gaming stuff. Let's just tag our name and characters onto your little thing that you got working.
If you're gonna hitch your wagon, you might as well hitch it to Square. But it's not like they're new to gaming. They've been licensing their stuff for years and years. But this was a different kind of collaboration than like, hey, here's Lion King. You can use those assets to go make a game. So it was very different.
Very quick story. I mentioned your Sora. You're looking for your friends. You begin on Destiny Islands with Riku and Kairi, your two best friends, and your plan is to leave and explore to leave your world and go explore others, but something happens, you get separated, and the story gets insanely convoluted. For the first game, it doesn't. It's you have to suspend disbelief all over the place, but it's pretty straightforward. Later in the series, things get so wild that you have to watch like a 5-hour lore video on YouTube in order to make sense.
It gets even more bonkers because I already felt like this was bonkers.
You can't even imagine how bonkers it ends up getting. Like, it's crazy.
Gameplay.
Do y'all like button mashers?
I'm playing one.
Depends.
Well, we should go there, I guess.
I mean, no, we don't need. We need to leave Final Fantasy 16 out of it. I don't.
Oh, I thought you were talking about this one.
No, let's talk about Final Fantasy 16.
Okay, yeah.
And I mean, and of course this one as well. Kingdom Hearts is hack and slash, right? That you're going to button mash. I think button mashing, in and of itself, is not great, but I think that if it can be done well, I think that as long as there's some variety, as long as you keep battles short and snappy, then it can be fun.
I do hesitate though to truly call this a hack and slash because of the menu that is in the lower left and something you should be using and cycling through to get to not only your auto attack, which in a traditional hack and slash would be bound to X. Like that's like X to swing your sword. And here, if you're on attack, that's what you're doing. You're swinging your Keyblade. But you are at least trying to do some of the RPG things by using that menu and getting to an item screen or item menu and to a magic menu. But
yeah, definitely has hack and slashy moments. I think of this more as an action RPG in my mind, which even that's not like truly what we think of ARPGs as looking like.
No, but yeah, it is.
It's a kind of hard one to define because it's a little bit sort of genre colliding.
Hey, we're throwing out terms here, and people that haven't played Kingdom Hearts have no idea what we're talking about. Keyblade is something that you threw out, and I still think that
people know what Kingdom Hearts is.
It is fairly obvious from the name of it what it is.
I'll finish my sentence. Keyblade is still one of the most brilliant creations of all time. I think that the Keyblade is such an iconic weapon. It's not just a weapon, which you find out in this game and in this series, but I think that it's so fascinating, and I love that one of the many things that changes as you go from world to world, which we need to set all of this up for those that don't know Kingdom Hearts, Nolan, is that the Keyblade, as you get new Keyblades, it remains the Keyblade, but it changes design and potency based on which world you're at, and I think that is so cool. I love the Keyblade. I think it's fantastic.
It's great.
I like how they handled it with the whole like evolution. Great, I am not
great. So
no, hold on. I want to hear what he says. Hold on.
I'm in the opposite camp as Dustin. It's iconic.
Concept?
It's cool looking. It's a cool idea. It's not a blade.
Okay.
Semantics?
Never mind.
Really?
I am cutting you off on second thought.
No, like it was poorly named. Like I don't know.
Okay. First of all,
it's a bludgeon.
There are
weapon.
many designs later in the game and in the series that do resemble blades that you'd be happier about. But come on, Kenny, you know that's not something.
Don't.
What do you want him to call it? A key?
No, a key hammer, a key bat. You would love that.
A giant key.
The key would be better than Keyblade.
Wow, you're lying.
This guy, get him, developers, get him while he's hot. All right, you are in this game going from after you get off the incredibly too lengthy tutorial island. Yeah, no,
well,
no one's gonna argue with me there.
Why do you say that?
No, it's far too long that you're spending time there and just running around doing fetch quests and even when you finally get to Traverse Town, that is also convoluted. You got to go in this door. You got to go in this door. It gets kind of wonky. However, once you finally get past all of that, the rest of the game, what you're doing, I just want to set it up, is that you are flying through space from world to world, and each of these different worlds are Disney worlds. And so you're going to these Disney-inspired worlds, and you are often partnering up with the protagonist or one of the characters
Hercules
from that story, Tarzan, and partnering with them to accomplish something there while the story continues to expand and grow.
And I do want to say, brilliant execution by them to do that, to do like, let's go to our worlds that we have. It's brilliant execution, and if you're gonna like combine Disney with something, go hard on the Disney aspect, and they do here.
Agreed. If you're gonna lean in. I would refer to them as Disney universes.
This guy,
so Disney World already is a thing that exists, and
no
you're
one's
going to be
confused by that,
people.
dude. Like, no one's confused.
And
like, hold on.
It's universes. We're traveling from universes, and that's the common lore way of talking about this kind of stuff.
Dustin,
what?
Your comment about the tutorial.
Disheartened.
No, you're heartless. Your comment about the tutorial is actually true, because I was going to be like, no, you're kind of wrong. But here's the thing. Okay, you have that starter like dream sequence tutorial where you're seeing the stained glass platforms and you're fighting Heartless, and it's telling you how to fight. And it's and you pick the two powers and you abandon the one. So like the sword, the magic, and the shield. You have to choose between those three things. That part is super tutorially and kind of long. Then you get to Destiny Island, and it's like, okay, now we're getting into the game. You get more story stuff, but that sequence is also very tutorially, and that's bad. But then Traverse Town is kind of also a tutorial.
Yeah,
it is. It doesn't add much to like anything. I mean, you get some story, but I agree. I think you need all of those things for the story, but don't keep it so hand-holdy the whole time.
They are interesting worlds, but they are like the island. I think it's an interesting space. The Traverse Town, I think it's an interesting space, but the length of time that you're there and what you have to do to move on to the next thing, I think that's what slows it down. And being so early, it's frustrating, especially when I've already played it before. However, a big question of mine is, was this game developed more with younger audiences in mind? And I don't know, because I came in it as a teenager, came to it much later, but the reason why I probably didn't play it earlier is because I was a teenager, and Square did have my heart, but Square edgy class, like that kind of stuff.
Traditional Square, yeah.
I could not, when I played this many years ago, I could not fathom running around with a traditional Square character along with Goofy and Donald. That seems so absurd to me.
It is.
And it still is a little bit. But I think the absurdity is kind of the point. I mean, they chose the silliest of the Disney characters to give you as sidekicks so that they could bring sort of the humor and the levity from that side. And I don't know. I think they knew what they were doing, and it is weird, and it does still feel a little foreign, but it kind of works.
Kenny's perspective throughout all of this is interesting to me because he's never played it, and he's a grown man and playing it. So I did play it when I was a kid, and so to me, yeah, it was developed with kids in mind, I think, because the focus so much on friendship and like Donald and Goofy being the silliest, and like it's so childish. Like the story's not that heavy, so
at least
to me,
in the first one, right? I think that they, again, wisely leaned a lot more Disney than they did Square with this. And again, I think that is probably a good idea, but it could have, and did for me, distance or separate this game from traditional Square JRPG gamers. Not all, because I know there's many that enjoyed it, but what Square was known for at the time, and I know it wasn't just Final Fantasy, but that was kind of what I was steeped in. Yep. Although this has Final Fantasy characters and things merged into it, it is not close to a Final Fantasy game in really any way.
No, especially the gameplay, really.
Yeah.
And that's what I came in expecting, because I hadn't played this game, knew of it by reputation, knew the kind of game it was, but I was expecting Final Fantasy turn-based combat, but I get to select some Disney characters to throw in there for variety. You know, like instead of Kate Sith, I get Goofy or whatever, and like that's what I was expecting, and this was very much not that. So I had to kind of change my expectations even about what kind of game I was playing, because I didn't expect that. I didn't expect Star Fox.
No,
but
that's not what a gummy ship sequence is.
But hold on, before we go too far, I wanna explore what you just said, Nolan. You said it's flipped. What did you mean by that?
I mean that it's heavily Disney focused, and your Final Fantasy sprinkles are cameos of characters that have different names that are totally not the character from the games that they're from. Aerith, and then like they change
Squall is Leon.
Squall, yes, which I guess that's still his nickname. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's not. Leonhard is his last name. Right.
But
so yeah, but then you straight up have Waka and Titus and Yuffie, and so like you've got these characters that don't necessarily, although maybe some, don't necessarily act or sound like their Final Fantasy counterparts. So it's exactly what y'all are saying, what we're all saying. It is Disney with a sprinkle of Final Fantasy. But again, I think that was the right way to go. With Kenny, you brought it back around to the battle system. I think, let's explore that just a little bit, because one of the things that threw me most is even just the layout of the button scheme because with PlayStation games, I'm so used to square being your attack, X being your jump, and circle being a different ability, triangle being menu. That's not what it is here. X is not even in this game attack. It is confirm.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Where the menu comes in.
Yeah, the menu comes in. And so you said earlier that that's what differentiates it from hack and slash. Yeah, I guess, but for the majority of the time, I'm just on that attack function anyway.
For the majority of the time, yes. There are reasons to go heavily on spells and magic if you build that way. I can't even really say build. And they explore that later in the series. Just they flesh it out a little more, but yeah, you're on attack most of the time. But I didn't find it that foreign. I'm okay with the right stick being choose in the menu. It's a nice, quick, shorthand way of doing that. You could also use D-pad. The thing that I've had to get used to that I don't generally enjoy, but a lot of games did this, is that your camera rotation is your trigger buttons. And
L2
I don't
and R2?
Yeah, I don't love that. Like,
Well,
I've
no.
never loved that. I want a joystick for that, and so I wish R was just simply camera.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have some camera controls. I mean, you certainly need it.
You certainly need it, but the lock-on mechanic is actually really good because it'll lock on to things behind you off screen, and Sora will auto-target them and like fight them. So I think they handled the camera well. It wasn't a limiting thing that it can be for me. So.
But where it separates again from Final Fantasy is that although you do have party members, you're not in control of Donald or Goofy really. Outside of battle, I thought this was pretty cool that you could go into a party ability customization and set. This is kind of like what Final Fantasy 13 with that system of like setting
Paradigm shifts.
Yeah, like how often, or one of the Final Fantasies, you could like set. Maybe it's 12. You could set your party members and how often they use certain abilities, offensive or defensive moves, as well as their use of items. Goofy's always going to use up all of your items, so you can't really stop that. But like you can do that a little bit. But then inside of battle, you don't really control them.
No, at least not in this first game. No.
Yeah. Oh. Ooh.
I mean, you don't full on
Interesting.
control them ever, really, but they just flesh it out more. The first iteration, I think, is still a solid idea, though, to be able to like assign things to them and just tell them what you prefer out of them. But the combat loop truly is a bit of a masher, and if you dislike that, then you won't ever like the combat because that's what it is.
Yeah, I think all of that's fair.
But
even with bosses, like the bosses, they get creative with it in terms of like boss weak points and stuff like that. But that's about as varied as it gets, in my opinion.
And then Kenny, you brought up so quickly and early the gummy ship. It was
Of course, we got to talk about it.
least favorite segment in my first experience with this game. And it is still my least favorite experience in this game.
It's everybody's.
It's
least
so
favorite.
bad.
I love
The idea.
the concept.
Okay.
Then
Yeah.
you would love
Pieces.
Kingdom Hearts 2.
Building out your thing, right? Like that?
Yeah, the whole concept is great. Traveling and having to do something interactive in that time is great. Even making it a ship is great. But it it looks terrible. It also looks terrible. And it isn't hard. You don't really do anything. It's just kind of bland.
And it performs terrible. Like no matter
so
where
much
your
potential.
reticle is, it doesn't matter because it's not going to shoot that thing. It's just it's bad.
The concept is good. They actually deliver it in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah.
That's
the
good. That's good to know.
customization system is more robust. The actual levels themselves are better, and it's like an actual Star. You called it Star Fox, Kenny. 2 feels like that, and it's so fun. Honestly, gummy ship stuff in Kingdom Hearts 2, I genuinely enjoy like that portion of the game. But in the first one, I wish it wasn't there.
I wanted to like this so bad because I love the idea, and just it didn't.
Everybody feels that way, even Kingdom Hearts fans. Like they know, like it's known that the first gummy ship iteration is whack. So y'all are fine. No one's gonna kill you.
Also, so not only are you going to these worlds and interacting with the characters from their specific worlds, they glitter Disney characters and themes throughout your experience. So in Traversal Town, the first main area you go to, one of the shop owners is Huey, Louie, and Dewey. Huey?
Yeah.
Louie and Dewey? Did I get the 3 names right? They're doing an item shop, I think.
Yeah. You get to learn magic from Merlin.
Yeah, like that's super cool.
Deep track kind of Disney stuff, but stuff that I was so hyped about.
I think this is cool. Like, if you're going to give me a fetch quest, heck yeah, have me go and fetch the 99 puppies from 101 Dalmatians.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that is so smart.
And not just all their characters, but all their villains too. That first cutscene, I knew there was depth, but
All
then
the
that
villains?
first cutscene where it pans around and you see villain after
Magnificent.
villain
In
after
shadow,
villain
though.
standing there in shadow, talking, scheming together, like they're all the bad guys in cahoots.
The Disney thing
not
is
only
so
feels
good.
epic, but like was the first time I truly understood, oh, we're not talking like a piece of Disney. We're talking all of Disney is fair game. And then it delivered. I got to go down the rabbit hole and explore Wonderland. Like, what?
That's why it works, because you are going into these worlds that you love from movies, and you're messing things up. Like you're seeing the characters that you know, and you're interacting with their goals. Like Hades, you like Cerberus. You fight these things, and it feels right. They did the Disney thing the right way.
They did it the right way.
They really did the right way.
Because they went hard. We said it already, but that was the way to do it. If you're going to do Disney, don't do a little, do a lot. And they did a lot. Like, you're not going to be playing this game thinking, I didn't get enough Disney.
I wish there was more Disney in that.
Yeah, that's not what you're thinking.
Some of the mini games I genuinely enjoy. Like, in each world, usually there's some sort of, like, time attack style mini game to do, or something new and interactive, and I think that's a nice touch to break up some of the like questing. Like, a lot of this feels fetch questy when you go to these worlds, and that's okay. You're just progressing the story, but but it's like it feels a little artificial. So I like having something to do outside of that, but the worlds themselves, I mean, you're not doing too much outside of some like battles.
I'll say this: the worlds are fun and exciting to visit, but I agree with you. There's not much to do there in relation to the greater narrative that's going on. It's kind of, you're just going to a world, getting wrapped up in whatever's happening there. But you have to, because not only is that the game, but you're getting a morsel of the bit larger story while you're there. So like, you go there and you hang out with Winnie the Pooh and Tigger for a little bit, doing whatever they want to do, which is just ridiculous and doesn't matter. But as a part of that, you're getting a little morsel from your story. So, that's the theme of this game.
That's the theme.
Sure,
it is.
Like,
yes.
Can we talk about the Power Rangers vibe of this game? Because you have little enemies that show up in bulk and are weak.
They're the
and
putties?
Constantly. They reminded me of putties, they constantly harass you. You're fighting them nonstop. I don't mind the concept, but I felt like they were a little heavy-handed on just like constantly dropping these things in around you.
So the frequency of battles, you mean?
Yeah, just the frequency of the kind of standard battles. Like boss battles, I felt like was a good mix. Maybe I just wanted more enemy variety. I don't know,
you're getting
but
it just felt like most of the time
constant floods of just the generic bad guy.
I've never heard them compared to the putty patrollers. I've never heard them compared to ants, but I will buy both of those things. They do, Kenny, as you progress, you get various versions of the Heartless. So some will be these big puffy balloons, some will be armored, some will be this or that. They operate a little bit differently than others, but Heartless is what you are primarily fighting for the majority of this game.
I guess I would have expected the enemies to be Final Fantasy enemies, and there's maybe a few, but the game really does have its own new enemy types, and it has its own style that separates it from just normal Final Fantasy. So I like the enemy designs. I just, again, 2 does it better. They have more. So,
and the thing that's often nice about those putty patrollers showing up and trying to fight you is that they are on infinite spawn, Kenny. So if you just try to fight them every single time they show up, you're going to that's going to take a lot of your time. You can avoid them, run past them, and just go to the next area, and it's fine for the most part. For a lot of things. So those are fine, but I think the thing that really shines in combat are the boss battles, because not only do you fight some cool heartless monsters, but you also fight some of the legendary characters. You've even got a Coliseum, where I remember this being one of the places that I enjoyed fighting in the most, because they give you like tiered battles that get progressively more and more difficult, and eventually you fight Sephiroth, which I was never able to beat. I was never able to beat him. I know, because
it's so hard, dude.
I think I could do it now.
Actually hard.
I think I could do it now that I beat Sekiro, but I before back in my day, Sephiroth so hard.
Super duper hard. You do fight Cloud too in part of the story.
Spoiler.
I love that. I love that you realize you officially got good because of Sekiro.
Oh yeah, Sekiro
That's
made
funny.
me a better gamer.
I told you it would.
Aged.
We've been talking about the Disney audience, the Square Enix Final Fantasy audience, RPG audience. The game really created a new audience, I feel. I think it was a brand new thing. I think it was a cult-ish type of following, and then it just got huge. Because I don't see... I mean, you've got Dustin here that loves Final Fantasy, loves JRPGs, and loves Square Enix, but doesn't feel like he gets much from the game. But a Disney fan would get more than a Square Enix fan. I just still think that all the new characters, Sora, Kairi, Riku, I think it worked for that generation. It grabbed them, and this fan base is so large now and passionate about this game that they are separate from the two colliding. They're separate. They're a separate entity.
Don't people love Riku more than any of them though? They think he's second.
Zaddy? Yeah, they do.
Why did they name him Riku when there was a Final Fantasy character named Riku? That bothers me.
It's a cool name.
Yeah, well, yeah, but there's the Final Fantasy characters are in the game, you know.
What would you have named him?
What, Clive? Maybe.
Clive?
No.
No.
I agree. I like those three. However, Sora is your protagonist, and so both of the other two characters you mentioned disappear at least for some time. They of course come up in the story throughout, but they're not your party. So I think a lot of it rests on Sora. But the thing that's nice is that not solely does it rest on Sora, because you do have Donald and Goofy, which I think aged well. So well that when I first played it, that I was coming, and I've said this before, I was coming from like edgy Final Fantasy to this not edgy. Very light, very silly, very frilly. I think I've grown up some to where I can laugh and enjoy that a little bit more. Donald and Goofy, they're like, a lot of it rests on them, and I think they nail it. Like this, they're so much fun. The humor
they are fun.
from their IPs are here, rich. Like I thought that was one of my highlights this time playing through, was watching and watching them go around the world.
Such a good decision.
Totally. They surprise me that they work, but they completely work. So I get it. Like, I don't want to like the idea, but they're great pals to have along for the ride. I will say that the Disney characters, because they pull so deep from their tracks, I think to a large extent probably worked better and were more familiar when this game came out than today. Disney has kind of moved into this sort of new characters. You got the whole like DreamWorks stuff. You got the whole Marvel superhero thing. Like, kids growing up today, I don't know if they would know that Merlin was even a Disney character. I don't know that the fairy godmother would mean anything to them, or the Cheshire Cat. And so Disney's classic and timeless. I'm not trying to say it's not, but I'm saying generationally, I feel like this had more appeal when it dropped than it probably would for someone coming to it today, at least like a kid.
Like I said, Disney today couldn't do this deal. Like, they live and breathe Marvel, I think. I don't really know. Don't come for me. I don't follow Marvel, and I don't care about it, but like, it seems like that's their focus. That's what kids know and care about, is the superhero thing. And the like classic movies, while they have been preserved and you can watch them, it's like, I think the timing was right. I think you're right. The timing for this was just right.
Yeah, it was a very timely convergence
before it was too late. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Of both the IPs and the where they are in games, and like where people were growing up. We had community members this week talking in Discord who have like grown up with this game, loved it, had children, and named their children after characters in this game. That's the kind of influence this game had on folks.
Riku?
Like, so cool.
Kairi.
I
think that classic Disney is always going to be around, even for not just around, but a notable thing. I mean, they're remaking Lion King. They have. I'm not saying these are good things, but they've remade Lion King. They've remade Aladdin. Like,
and Disney World exists, and it's Mickey Mouse.
So like I don't know. I think they chose. You're saying they went deep cut, and maybe on some characters, but on a lot of the main, like all the main villains, like those are still. Hercules is still a big, for some reason, it's still a big like callback IP for Gen Z for some reason, and
because it's Hercules. It's great,
I guess. And so I don't know. I think they chose well, and I think one of the things that they did well was voice acting, particularly for the Disney characters. I think the majority of the Disney characters sound very good. Even some of their primary voice actors returned to or came to this project.
Interesting.
But even the ones that were new, I thought were done remarkable. Goofy and Donald?
Yeah.
I had to ask, were those the originals? And they weren't, but fooled me.
Yeah.
So like they did get, however, I think most of the Final Fantasy characters, the voice acting is not good.
You don't like Cloud?
Cloud was okay. Leon was terrible.
Leon was bad.
Squall's voice acting was very bad.
Yeah.
But Disney's was good. Again, they went hard on Disney, and I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Sora was Haley Joel Osment.
Yes. 3 names.
Really?
3 names. Yeah. Big actor.
I didn't realize he was huge at that point.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Haley Panties, whatever her name is, did Kyrie.
Haley Panties? Oh, Hayden Panettiere?
Hayden Panettiere. Yes.
I'm searching Hayden Panty.
No, don't search that.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah. She did Kyrie.
Who was Riku? Me?
Another guy that was notable at the time.
Okay.
But yeah, Haley Joel Osment, I think with Sora did phenomenal. I thought that voice acting was some of the best, especially 2002. Like, that's really good.
Yeah, no, they did a great job with Sora. Yeah.
I had already mentioned it, but the control scheme kind of just didn't work for me. I felt like just mashing square feels weird, or sorry, mashing X feels weird when I feel like I should be mashing square. The L2 and R2. The thing that was nice in the re-release or remake, they actually allowed the R stick to be camera.
Yeah.
To be the camera.
To be in the final mix.
Yeah.
You almost have to. That is the standard. Things hadn't quite moved there yet at this point, apparently.
They could have done
that. It could have, and they should have.
Yeah.
I'm glad that on the re-releases they did. That actually makes me more likely to go back and play one of those, knowing that. It's just comfort.
I normally would knock them for having 2 things on the controller that do the same thing, D-pad, right stick, but being able to scroll that menu while moving is important. Yeah. You need to be dodging at times and also be selecting. I wasn't bothered by controls. The camera thing I don't love. It's not my preference, but I thought that was... I don't think it's an aging factor for the game for me, personally.
It ages for me because so many other games from that time and even since don't go that route. Again, I know I've said it a few times, but square is typically the action button, and an X being that just felt weird to me.
That wasn't my hang up. It was more camera, but I had to... The fact that I had to think about it and learn and adjust, I did, but like... This feels almost like a more modern game, and generally those types of games you pick up, you're just comfortable. You just go. Autopilot, you don't have to think about it. And I had to think about it some. It was distracting. It pulled me out of the game experience. That gets better with time, obviously, but it's a factor.
Music is interesting because while you've got like a OST and it's great, and a lot of it is pulled from Disney too, which was smart of them to do, and they had the permission to do it. The main track for like the opening cutscene is called Simple and Clean, and that was like the anthem at this time for me and others who played this game. It was like the sickest opening cutscene, and that song is so good. And so I thought that the soundtrack holds up for me. Overall, I think it's very listenable, and they did a good job.
Love the music. Couple of places where things are a little repetitive, especially as you're jumping into and out of battle, and you kind of have that notable transition, which I'm glad they did. but still it kind of just draws attention to itself. But overall, loved it. Was humming along. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
One of the things that amazed me was the creation of new songs, but that felt like they fit in the Disney worlds they were coming from.
Yep.
Like, that's remarkable to me. And yeah, all of them were so good. I felt the music here was absolutely spectacular. You already mentioned the song that's going to give everyone a copyright strike on YouTube, but that's a great like theme for this song.
Well, I think actually I said some of them were Disney. I think most of the soundtrack though is original.
Oh yeah,
like what you're saying, where they like made it seem like it was from that world. So great job to Shimomura, the composer.
So good. I think though the graphics is what ages some, not entirely. I still think they're remarkable, and the cutscenes are blowing me away.
Fantastic.
For 2002.
FMV is insane.
Absolutely phenomenal.
PS2, dude. I love the PS2 so much. The graphics, so the cutscenes, it's such a good era.
Some of the character models, you're going to get still some of the reminiscence of polygon effects.
Some.
But I still think that it was done remarkable. Where I noticed graphically some of the age was the backgrounds. When you're going through some of these Disney worlds, they're very vacant. When you're fighting in the Coliseum, the stands are completely clear while there's cheering because they just don't want to have to deal with that. Like, whose was it? Peter Pan's face was a little bit disturbing. Like, there's just some things that are notable.
Peter Pan's face? Yeah, you're right, actually.
It's a little bit Nightmare Fuel-ish.
I think the gummy ship's the worst looking part of the game.
Seriously,
it's kind of ugly.
No.
Because,
it's notably bad.
It does feel vacant, I'll agree with you there. But overall, I just have a soft spot for 2000s gaming, dude. And it just looks great. It looks great.
Okay, so the final mix was released exclusively in Japan at first. And it offered gameplay tweaks and new scenes that clarified plot points. Found that super interesting.
That's important.
And then it was hold on. You have Final Mix or you have the HD 1.5 remix?
I have that.
Okay, right. Because Final Mix... Final Mix was, I'm pretty sure, exclusively Japan, and then the HD 1.5 remix came out in 2013 for the PS3 and every console thereafter.
Yes, that's what I have.
Do you understand, though? This is insane to me. That game was created from the ground up because of lost assets from the original game. They had to create it from the ground up.
They remade the whole entire thing.
They had to remake the entire thing.
They were probably like so bummed. They were like, "Are you serious? Please tell me that's not true."
Yeah, from the ground up.
That's crazy.
Disney has them in the vault somewhere. They've got the assets locked away in the vault. And they're not going to give them up.
HD 1.5 remix did you play that this week, Nolan? And is that like the go-to if you are going to revisit?
No, I didn't. I play PS2. I own that one too.
Yes, it is the one to go back to if you're revisiting.
In my opinion, yes. I don't know what the general consensus is on that opinion, but I would, because you've got all the stuff you just listed, and more. So yeah, I would go 1.5.
And you've got their R stick for camera control. I think that's
and you've got ground up game. But
you've got a whole new game.
Yeah.
If you do want a copy of Kingdom Hearts for your PlayStation 2, oh, by the way, let me just state this is a series. And so you can play prequels and sequels and 0.3s and 2.79999s and
Birth by Sleep, like all these weird names.
There's actually other games submitted in the Patreon pool that were Chain of Memories. Is that what it was? Yeah.
It's a PS2 and GBA title that is so it's fantastic. It's so good.
If you want a copy of Kingdom Hearts for your PlayStation 2, it is only $5 used, loose $5. Mm-hmm. But if you do
Kenny
want
would
it
buy
new,
that one.
If you do without a box, if you do want it, new, actually it's probably too retro for Kenny. He would probably have to go with like a much newer version.
BioShock 3.
If you do want a new copy of Kingdom Hearts, it is $253.
Ooh,
I
popular.
kind of would have expected a little more, honestly.
Yeah,
but that's high.
They probably made a lot of them.
They did. Yeah.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. Mr. Hart over here grew up with
Mr.
it,
Hart.
revisiting it. What'd you think?
Well, I actually think that Kingdom Hearts 1 is a tough revisit. After playing it this week, and I'll tell you this, and you can roll your eyes, fans. Roll your eyes at me and say, get over it. The Gummy Ship segment is awful. It is. It's gatekeepingly bad. So that's one huge mark I have against revisiting the game this week. Number 2 is something Dustin mentioned, actually, and it is the emptiness that this game has, the feeling of emptiness. And 2 doesn't do this. I've said it many times. I think 2 is the superior game by a mile for so many reasons, and maybe one day we'll play it. But 1 is lacking. So I actually want to not give it New Game Plus because the game frustrated me a lot this week. But I have to give it New Game Plus because I do still think that the game is great. I think it's so impressive that Disney and Square partnered on this to create something that is unique away from both of those IPs, and yet has elements of both to join them and make this like really interesting, yes, childish, but still very charming and very loved series. And I still love it. So I give it New Game Plus, but it's on thin ice. The first game is weak. And I'll just say that. It's a weak game in the series, but I'll give it New Game Plus because I don't want fans to eat me.
Have you played the rest of the series in its entirety?
I haven't played 3, which is the newest big finale, and I know that I need to play it. I own it. I have it. I just I haven't played it. But I've played like all the spin-offs, dude. I've played all of them.
You said finale. Is it the finale? Is it the end? You don't know.
I think it's the end of the Sora Kairi Riku story. But to say the end of their story, it's not like Star Wars. It's like everything is part of this same story. So I have no idea. They're not going to stop making Kingdom Hearts games, right?
They haven't made one for a while.
We'll see.
Kenny.
So I'm surprisingly aligned with Nolan on this one. I'll say up front, this one gets an unenthusiastic yes from me. I did miss the boat on this game happening in the childhood nostalgia sweet spot. But it's I don't know, it's a good enough game. I had enough fun that regardless, I can overlook some of those imperfections. Square and Disney, like, they get together, you know they're going to make a product. Like, they're not going to play around. And this is included in that. But I feel like I'm not quite the target audience. You know, I'm playing it years later, and B, I was not quite their demographic when it came out, even originally. And I think this is one of those games that it was probably better to play when it came out than retrospectively. So, all of that to say, though, this still has a ton of charm, a ton of quality, and even if the storytelling and the world collisions lean a little bit too cheesy for me and kind of hard to swallow, it was a hurdle for me, but I still respect it. New Game Plus. I'm glad the series gets better, though, from what I hear.
It does.
That means that, you know, it's New Game Plus certified, as we've got to saying yes. I'll just simply add that I did not expect this week, but I am giving it the most enthusiastic yes out of all three of us.
Interesting.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say no.
It's very, very, very interesting to me this week, and I had no idea coming into it how I would feel, because I've already kind of stated, but I let Nolan know as I played it years ago that my up and down with it, right?
Very up and down, hot and
very
cold,
up and
sure.
down with it. And at the end, I was like, hey, it's fine, but I don't want to play the rest of the series. I'm just not inspired by this. It's not for me. Again, a lot of it has to do with the edginess. A lot of it has to do with the I prefer the edginess, and it's not edgy.
Right. It's real Disney,
and it's very Square light, which is what I was going into. However, years removed now, coming back to it, I'm not going into it expecting a Square game. I'm going into it expecting an entirely different IP. And I had fun with it this week. It has a tremendously slow start, and I think that is so unfortunate. However, once you get into the meat of the game, there's so much charm, and it's so fun and light, and there's a lot of things to do that, like, for completionist's sake, that can scratch that Square itch that some of those games do have, but it's light enough to just have fun and enjoy. While the game isn't perfect, and I think it hasn't aged perfectly, it still has so much heart. So I, too, give it my vote for New Game Plus status, maybe even more than these two guys, which means that Kingdom Hearts is New Game Plus certified.
I want you to play the second one so bad.
I know, because I bet it's great.
Dude, I think we'll get to it on the podcast at some point.
Someone needs to eventually become a director and bring us Kingdom Hearts 2. That's the only way.
I mean, that's the quick way to do it. Yeah.
That's the only way it's ensured, but it will happen.
But it will only happen. Wait, hold on. 15 years or more.
Yeah, when did it come out?
It can happen. It came out in 2005, so it can happen.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fair game.
It can happen. All right, so for now, we are... Well, no, hold on. Before we set it aside, let's see what our community had to say about it. Our YouTube poll.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah.
64% said, yes, it's worth playing today. 14% said, no, go play something else. And 22% have never played it before.
Wow.
Even higher numbers than I expected. I knew this one was popular and loved, but I wouldn't have even expected quite that high a percentage.
Many wrote in. In fact, we hit a new record this week. Not of how many wrote in, that was last week, but how lengthy the responses were this week.
Kenny, have you scrolled?
Get some novels?
I didn't read. I just scrolled. Kenny, it's a joke.
Some people entered pages worth of commentary.
They just wrote their entire childhood.
It's a thesis.
I said in Discord, it's so Kingdom Hearts of them to do that.
Yeah,
it absolutely is.
So I'll include a few of those thoughts here, but if you want to see everyone else's thoughts from the community, you can hop in our commentary channel in Discord. Chris said Kingdom Hearts is one of those games whose flaws I can see and acknowledge while also simultaneously overlooking them in favor of the sheer emotion this game elicits. Perhaps this has to do with the brilliant soundtrack and visuals or the nostalgic Disney/Square references, but I find myself instantly immersed every time I pick up the game and can't help but go along for the ride. Logical storytelling be damned. Yes, the level design is pretty bad, the platforming is frustrating, the story is confusing, the combat is floaty and relies on button mashing. It's also evocative, emotional, and easy to love if you don't take it all too seriously. Don't worry about how long the series is and just embrace the singular game for what it is.
Yeah.
Great summary.
That's a good summary. It's its own thing, and it does have magic to it.
It's its own thing.
It's got that magic.
Oh, and making Donald the mage is brilliant. I don't know why that makes sense to me, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah, it makes great sense.
Laylis said, until now, I was happy just listening to the podcast, but I cannot stay silent for this one. PS2 was the first console I bought for myself and Kingdom Hearts with it just because I liked the cover. I was completely taken away by this game, fighting with Sora for friendship and light, all while listening to the most beautiful soundtrack. I never knew Final Fantasy before this. My favorite uncle saw me with Kingdom Hearts, recognized the characters, and offered to rent me all of the Final Fantasy games. Kingdom Hearts literally opened up worlds for me. Coming back to it now, I have to admit that controls and camera feel less fluent than I remembered. Some scenes are a little too cheesy, and the gummy ship never did it for me. Still, nostalgia tops everything. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Certainly hope for NGP.
Who wrote that?
Laylis.
Laylis, great point. that this game introduced so many to
Final
Fantasy. We didn't mention that.
Absolutely.
I didn't
Praise
think of
God.
that because I already knew about it. You already knew about it, but some totally didn't.
Yeah.
I like
This was
that.
a lot of people's onboarding to RPGs, to Final Fantasy, to gaming, to like.
Yep.
It was big. I don't know if you remember that Christmas when this game dropped, but
Not really.
everybody had it and was playing it. Everybody.
It would be super interesting to see the reverse of me, someone who Kingdom Hearts was their entry, and then they played Final Fantasy X after to see if they're like,
certainly
this is
that
too
happened.
serious or whatever. it
Yeah,
might be.
yeah.
Joey said this game is easily a top 5 played on the podcast.
Ooh.
Some have said the story is convoluted, but I would say it's incredibly dynamic. Each game in the series is like a piece of the puzzle to fully understand the story. The music in this game is unmatched, partnered with incredible gameplay, fighting mechanics. This game brings me back to the simplicity of a hack and slash, but at the same time requiring a fair amount of precision. The extra content of this game, as far as side missions goes, is also impressive. Side missions like going to Hercules Arena and playing through hordes of enemies, only to finally defeat Sephiroth and so much more. I cannot say enough good things about this game.
How long was that one?
That
Like,
one was a little bit brief.
Oh, was okay.
Joey kept it brief.
Thanks, Joey.
And then finally, A-Spot. A-Spot is one of the two that submitted this game. I've failed to mention up front, but A-Spot and what was it? Quarex both submitted this to the Patreon pool. A-Spot said, I still remember the day I first saw Kingdom Hearts on the shelf at my local Blockbuster. The cover was so dramatic, yet there, among the characters, was Donald and Goofy. I knew I had to try it. What followed was a game unlike any I'd ever played, and ultimately the experience that made me fall in love with video games. The story was so epic yet personal, serious yet still easygoing. I played the game over and over. I obnoxiously brought my PS2 to all my friends' houses to show them the coolest video game secret ending I'd ever seen. Coming back to the game, I know I'm hopelessly blinded by nostalgia, but if you give the game room to breathe, I believe the simple magic of going on an epic adventure with all of your favorite Disney characters is still there. I feel so fortunate that my game got pulled this week, and I really hope you guys had a good time and saw that same magic.
I think we did. And that was before the PS Slim, hauling that big brick around with you to your friend's house.
Yeah, the magic is certainly still there, and I think it's what captivated me and many others this week. For now, we're putting aside Kingdom Hearts until Kingdom Hearts 2 next week, maybe. We'll see. Because for now, we are randomly selecting. Remember, every other week is a Patreon pool this summer. However, this is the off week, meaning we are randomly selecting. Our last off week was Castlevania.
Right. So, okay.
Let's keep the fun going. Randomizing now. Come back with me to the year 1993.
All right, I'm back.
And hold something in your hand, such as a Game Boy. It's much smaller than that, Kenny.
A Game Boy.
A Game Boy.
Okay.
Come with me to the third Game Boy game based on this IP. Hold on. And come with me. This is blowing me away. To a game developed and published by Konami.
I'm back in.
Wait, didn't we just do Castlevania?
Yeah, Castlevania's Konami.
Yeah, we just did a Konami game.
So what do we got here?
This game, my friends, is called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Radical Rescue.
On Game Boy.
I did lots of early Turtles games.
Same, but not
but all on
console.
Not on handheld.
Same.
And I don't know. And the graphics on original Game Boy are tough.
But
they can work
Konami.
for some things. I don't know if they'll work for a Turtles game.
But Konami.
We're about to find out.
Hey, but Konami.
It's a good year.
Yeah.
Remember. It's so far it's been a perfect pool party. This one's gonna be good. I promise.
If it is one, hey, is this the year we said it was going to be good but weird because of the first game that was pulled?
Yeah, we said it was going to be good but unique.
This is one where we wouldn't be expecting. So
Sure.
if it's good, that would be great. It's Konami. You know how some people say "but God," But Konami.
But Konami.
Right? So like, but Konami. All right. Find a copy of TMNT 3 Radical Rescue and play it along with us this week.
Do yourself a favor and join our community. Some of you, one of you just said that you've been listening and you haven't written in. Well, let's change that. You can do that very easily by going to discord.gg/newgameplus. You can join our Discord, you can leave commentary, you can hang out with the rest of our community, and it's the place you want to be. We're trying to hit 1,500 members. We're getting close, so we need your help. Join now.
It's summertime. It's hot. That means you want to be like Yippee and like John Barron and sign up for patreon.com/NGP podcast and support us. That's the answer to this summer. Thank you to those new patrons. Also, thank you to our large list of producer-level supporters, including Adam, Alex, Marley, Antonin, Ben, Big Dude, Brunt, DH Bowser, Alice, Fishy, Francesca, Kim, and J. Robert, Jared, Joey, Jordan, Justin, Clint, Nicknack, Corey, Levi, Maximum, Pedro, Sage, and Shauna, Subsonic Demon, Tasselhoff, Thomas, Unbelievable, and Zion. Of course, to our director-level supporters who truly go above and beyond, Bro Jim, Daniel, Garlisle, and Super Hypered. You guys are the kingdom of our hearts.
You can find us on our social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. The links are all in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Radical Rescue. In Europe, it was known as Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. And
I don't like that.
In Japan, it was subtitled Turtles Kiki Ipatsu. Find a copy, play along with us next week. Until then, I'm still Riku.
I'm still Sora.
I'm Kiki.
Kiki, do you love me? And this has been New Game Plus.